All right, guys. Hi, how are you? And hello if this is the first video of me that you are finding. My name is Michi, or TwistedDisaster. I use they, them pronouns. I am a full-time freelance artist. I've been doing the art thing full-time freelance since about 2014. So, do the math. Wow, it's been almost 10 straight years of doing this full-time as my full income. So, we are doing a little bit of late night audio here. For people who are new here, what does that mean? I'm talking with a much more softer voice because it is a struggle out there. Yeah, yeah. And as the title says and the thumbnail, I don't know if the thumbnail will have any text on it or not, but we're going to be talking about conventions. And it's getting, well, harder and harder working them. So, myself, like many other artists out there, started doing conventions after the pandemic. However, asterisk, whatever. I got my paper ASMR here so I can keep a little bit more on point. But I reiterate, if you are new here, I do ramble content. I do conversational stuff here. You know, if you want like a beat by beat, perfectly edited, perfectly sourced thing like that, you're not going to find that here. All of these are from my own research, my own experiences, my friends' experiences, and I like my videos to be more conversational based. So yeah, you don't like that? Feel free to search any of the other art YouTubers, art people out there. But yeah. So this is both a rant video and to try to be a little bit more informative because it's hard out there. It's hard out there for everyone right now. The economy is not cute. And you know, the people that always can tell when stuff's bad is when words. You want to know the people who can tell when the things are happening bad quicker than others is it's people who have jobs that are quote unquote luxury jobs. That's what it is considered being an artist. You don't need art to live, it just makes, life more meaningful. And so with that, it's mostly a rant. But like I said, I'm going to try to keep myself a little bit more on point here with what it is I'm talking about. So I'm already rambling and going on tangents, so let's start from the beginning. So my very first convention was back in 2018. I did San Japan in 2018. I split a table with a friend of mine. I knew nothing. I was a little itty bitty bob, and I hadn't been to a convention in quite a while either. So my only form of reference was Anime Expo in most of my teenage life. I couldn't afford it much as my adult life, so, And then one of the last ones I ever did was I attempted to go in 2019, and then I experienced LineCon, and I never went back. So, I was going to make a how to do conventions video or an intro video to doing conventions, getting into artist alleys, doing things like that. There are other people with other videos out there. However, I really feel like I had to scrap mine. And the reason for that is, oh, it's being lazy. Oh, it's being that. No, it's just, it's getting harder and harder. I know I'm reiterating the title here, but I genuinely, at least in the California circuit where I live, because I'm stuck here, love to leave, don't have enough money to leave, so, But I live in the Cali circuit. I live in California. Boy, do I hate it, like most of us here. And it's getting impossible. It is literally getting impossible for people starting out. And I had to scrap that video because as I was doing my edits and more things going on and seeing how things are going and seeing how things are running, I literally tried to make that video, I would think 3 or 4 times. Now, I've made a video like it in the past, but I wanted to do an updated version because, well, a lot of things have changed. And they're not changing for the better. So, before I go into that, I want to compare my 2 best cons to my 2 worst cons from this year. So, my best con, start of the year, was Anime Los Angeles. Last year, it was kind of a meh con. I had gotten in, and my friend and I split because they were kind of like, I don't really know about doing it this year. And it was amazing. It was one of the best cons I ever had. and it was amazing for a Thursday. It was so good. The application process was great, the people were great, things were fine and dandy, and I'm sitting here like, wow, I feel like this is a great start to this con year. I feel like things are doing great, right, right, right. And then my second best con, which was actually right after ALA, was SakuraCon. And that is a video I will eventually be making. I'm sorry I'm taking so long, and that was back in like March or February. But my life got very crazy. So I just haven't had time to do it. And, I was in the hospital. That's why. I forgot about that. Anyway, sorry. This year has been so much. But anyway, SakuraCon. That was my first con traveling out of state, doing solo. It's very important, okay? Doing solo, ever. I've gone out of state to do cons before. I usually do splits with friends. I hang out with things like that. This is my first time I got into a con. I was so proud. I got in. Now, for people who are wondering, SakuraCon, I will talk about this when I eventually do the SakuraCon video. It is jury, and then once you pass the jury, it is lotto. I have been confirmed this, so you need to pass the jury first, and then you get into a lotto pool, which I'm not going to lie, I kind of wish more shows would do, and I'm going to get into that as well a little later. But I did amazing at those cons. I made amazing profit. I, warranted everything back there, but it goes back to profit, okay? Because buzzword of the day, we live in a capitalist society. All of the artists you see doing Artist Alley and doing conventions and vendors in the hall, unless they are trust fund babies or they got a sugar person at home or something, rather, we're not doing it for fun. We're doing it for work. We could also enjoy it, but we're there for work. And realistically, a bad con will obviously make a bad experience. Even if everyone is great and nice there, if you did horribly financially, well, you can't warrant going back because you did horribly financially, And just kind of how it works, because it is, first and foremost, a business. It's a business. We're doing things there. And something I want to point out is how crazy the con scene has been getting. Now it seems like anyone can host a con. There are many different types of cons. There's anime cons, there's horror cons, there's goth cons, tattoo cons, furry conventions. I've heard of a K-pop one. I follow Swell Entertainment, love her stuff. And she does a lot of those things where I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. I primarily do Comic Cons, anime cons, and other nerd pop culture related ones. I wanted to dip my toe into more horror ones, but sadly I haven't really been accepted, and that's fine. I know I will eventually, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And so, with that being said, those are my two good cons, right? My best cons of the year were those cons. And with what I was saying before, most people don't realize this, and I'm gonna tell you guys a little hidden fun fact. The artist alley and the vendors pay for the con. Well, Michi, what do you mean? So a convention head is going to rent out the center. They get the insurance. They're the one that contacts the voice actors and all the yada, yada, yada. And they do all of that. And then how they make their money, okay, is from the ticket sales and from selling to vendors and artists. And I know there's some panelists that they pay to do that. But usually it's the other way around. So we're the ones paying their salary. Those big companies that run it, it's paid for by us. That's how that works. So with that being said, a lot of other people don't know, and I'm not saying this to be degrading or rude, because they just don't know, but most of the time they save money in any which way they can because they are a corporation. Again, they're doing the insurances, they're doing the hard stuff, they're getting the voice actors, they're getting the vendors, they're doing all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. So there is work involved. However, I would say, as someone who's been doing this for a long time, it gets a lot more frustrating when you know how it works. And this isn't like a trade secret. This is bluntly how it is. It's just that, well, when you tell people that, oh, wait, they're just paying for the building and contacting the people to show up, and then they make their money off of other people. It sounds a little scummy, doesn't it? Just a little bit. But hey, that's just how capitalism works. And again, a lot of people don't want to deal with the bureaucracy of getting insurance, getting in permits, following things, going through agents. So like I said, that part totally understand as a job. However, what I don't like is when you get first years popping off with seasoned year prices. And you can tell this usually. You can usually tell this when, because I've done a lot of the Cali circuit, is I'm going to talk about the Ontario Convention Center, right? I personally don't know how much it is to rent the building. I don't. However, I have done many shows there in the same con hall with the same stuff, with the same voice actors, with the same things going on here. And the prices vary drastically for the same building, same table, same chairs, all that stuff. Also, little note I have here, I don't mind when prices go up, and I'm sure a lot of other artists and vendors will agree with me here. I don't mind if they're raising the prices and then our quality of care is being, raised as well. I forgot what show I did, but there was a show that raised their price, and we got a bigger table. Oh no, it was Anniversary. That's what it was. They rose their price a little bit, still affordable, because this has only been their third year, I think, maybe their third or fourth year, if that. I'm pretty sure it's their third year, but we got a bigger, wider table. We got nicer chairs, and they treated people pretty great. So I was like, I don't mind if they do all of that and we get the perks of doing that. You know what I mean? If you raise the prices, but... Oh, that was one thing of Anime Riverside. I remember now. They had people running around to, fill water bottles. It was so nice. Like the helpers were actually helping. So, another way how they cut costs is... And I'm sure you pretty much heard about this if you've heard of, how to get into cons or cheap videos and things like that. Most of the time, a lot of the staff, not all, but a lot of the staff are volunteers. They're volunteering for a badge. So instead of them getting paid a paycheck, they get a free ticket for the con that's already paid for, because we paid for the building, and yada, yada, yada. You see how this cycle goes. So then, that's more money in the person's pocket, into the con head's pocket, for them to keep doing this kind of thing. So, with all that being said, right, it is so cutthroat now. And for a lot of people, it's not worth it to try out. And what I mean by that is you will have a new con. A new con will pop up. There was one that happened, I think it was this year. It was the Tattoo and Arts Expo, I think, or Tattoo and Anime Expo thing that was happening. And it was in the LA Convention Center, and it was a complete bust. It was awful. If I remember correctly, I think I had 2 friends do it who were telling me how horrible it was and how there was no organization, and pretty much the con had just scammed everybody. So yeah, even if they don't make another one next year, they just scammed tattoo artists and vendors and artists who were there and didn't even make a third of their money back. So it's one of those cool, great, love that, but it also makes it harder and harder for people to do these shows. And it's making it to where you're having more and more people traveling to do these shows, and then you have to factor traveling in on top of that. A couple of my other friends did a convention up in Northern Cali recently, and that was getting a hotel, and that was doing this and that, and with the Cali con prices, it's oh crap, just doing the show is $2,000. Oh, well, I only made $1,500 in total. Well, that sucks. I'm now out $500. And I remember having this conversation with a family member who didn't get it. I was describing how this one con, this will be a video, because this was my worst con. This was my very worst one that I did this year. And that was that... Lord Almighty. When I did Sci-Fi Valley Con this year, I had to factor in plane ticket and table price. Granted, me and my friend Sawyer split, so I did split the table. They did raise the price. It wasn't that much, but keep in mind, plane tickets suddenly went up. When I did my Sakura Con ticket, it was only $230. And that might not sound like a lot, or it might sound like a lot to you guys, but I was able to make that back. Same with staying at the hotel for SoccerCon. Remember, I made my money back. I made my profit back. You know, for Sci-Fi Valley, I had to make about $1,000 because even though my table was already paid for, I needed to pay for my table. I needed to pay for my plane ticket because plane ticket prices have skyrocketed, and I have learned it has skyrocketed again, which also is now making it to where I'm hesitant to fly out for shows until plane tickets go back down in price, if ever, which also sucks because I would like to not do just California cons. On top of my trip of me staying in Pennsylvania for that trip, right? For that show. And the show last year was amazing. It was great. I made so much money. I was so excited. And spoiler, I did awful, and so did every other artist. And I will talk about more of that in the rant video. But I was miserable at the end of that con because it wasn't until the last day that I broke even for my trip. And I had to pretty much live off of that break-even money for the rest of my trip, and because I didn't have any other shows coming up, and things had been getting a little slow because I was focusing on conventions, I had to really nurse that money. And it was not fun, it was not cute, and I was stressing out. Especially when I had been doing so great previously. And it's very frustrating. And then when I tried explaining this to a family member, they were like, but you made $1,000. And I'm like, well, no, I broke even. And they're like, well, no, you spent the money and then you made $1,000. And I'm like, yeah, I'm back to where I started. But now that money that was supposed to be done as like a business fund, I now have to have as a me fund. Because, when you are running a business, which is what this is, doing Artist Alley, selling merch online, being your own boss, is you have to factor in those things. It's like, oh, I have merch I have to pay for. I have taxes I have to pay for. I pay all my own taxes. I have, basic bills and utilities and rent and things like it here. Now, to look at me with a straight face and be like, oh, okay, cool. You made $1,000 in 10 days. That's a lot of money, right? For some people being like, wow, I would love to make $1,000 in 10 days. It's like, but it's 3 days of working your butt off to then be told, okay, cool. And now you only have that 1,000 to like live off of for another month and a half, And it was one of those things where I'm like, wow, this sucks. I'm in a lucky enough spot that my partner and I have like decent savings and that they have a decent job, to like warrant things. But it's one of those where it's like, okay, cool. I gotta make sure all my stuff's rearranged now to where I now have to mess with business funds to turn into life funds, because if I don't have life funds, I ain't gonna have a business fund. But when I tried explaining this to the family member, they just didn't get it. They were like, well, no, I don't get it. You made $1,000 because like you spent $1,000 to get it and then you made it back. And I'm like, yeah, but you need to make profit on top of that. That $1,000 that was going to go to now, it was going to go to making new merch. It was going to go to, maybe getting samples made on something I wanted to do. Gone. I can't do that now because I have to work with my business funds that are there. And see all that, hear all that. Not very fun, is it? Because it's not. It's very stressful, very irritating, and honestly, it's the least fun part of the job. Any self-employed artist will tell you, what's the favorite part? Well, duh, it's making the art. What's the thing you do the most? Not making the art. And it's getting harder and harder because you have to factor these things all into it. Now, if you remember when I made my video, I don't remember what I titled it, but it was my LACC con last year. And it was where, the parking was $30 a day. The table itself was around, if not more than $400. Everything was cashless, everything was expensive, and the sales were so slow because everybody was paying for the badge, the ticket, the meet and greets that barely made any money during that show. And it's one of those where it's like, okay, crap, can't really afford to do that. And then you notice that living in Cali, there are a lot of conventions going on, a lot of things going on, but because of that, you need to start being like, okay, well, how am I going to start making money? Well, I need to make more merch to make more profit, but then I need money to make more profit, and I'm not really making the profit, yada yada yada. This chaotic cycle, right? And the issue that we have here with a lot of California cons, which I'm going into this rant because, like I said, I was going to make a whole video about this, and I'm just going to throw it in here, is I am so sick and tired of these corporations. I know I'm not the only one, where they have cons being first come, first serve. Anime Expo is notorious for that. First come, first serve cons are in the name. That's where you hear the horror stories of the table sold out in 5 seconds. Oh my god, the website crashed. Oh, I had to get a PDF and then download the PDF and then edit the PDF and then upload the PDF to a thing and then mail it to somebody and then hope that they got it. But that was also first come, first serve. And it's so aggravating when you're describing all this stuff, and it's so stressful. When I remember how my Sakura Con app went, I remember how my other con apps went, I remember how applications went right when the Panini opened, like right when we opened after the quarantine, you know. And it was like I just went to this cool little website and I was like, oh, this show's coming up, oh, all right, I'm gonna click on this little website, fill out my stuff, do that, get an email back in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, you know, or a month or two before the con, and then boom, 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 you know, and either you get denied or you get in. But the problem with first come, first serve is they're throwing these huge prices out there to where only established artists can afford them, you know? And it's getting harder and harder for people to dip their toe into things. Like, it's why I love doing out-of-state cons. I was like, oh, wow, a 3-day con is less than $300, and okay, if I factor in my plane ticket and my hotel, and if I split with friends, and then some food, and yada, yada, it's pretty much about what I make here with gas, food, travel, and stuff. It's just because of the Cali price tag, right? But with first come, first serve, you gotta have someone there on it, and then the problem is you get, with first come, first serve, they're not checking portfolios. They're not checking and vetting artists. They just want to make their money. So because of that, you've got people now who get stolen art, AI art, and drop shippers. And I can make a whole video about drop shippers because I want to rant about that because I saw some people sharing some very, very stupid takes about it. I will say, as a little thesis, I guess, here is I don't care if you are a drop shipper in the vendor's hall, but you need to get the heck out of Artist Alley. Get out of there, okay? I know Artist Alley is quote-unquote cheaper, but that's because it's supposed to be us, okay? It's supposed to be things that we made, and it's so aggravating. It is so aggravating that you eventually become numb to it, where you do a show, and you talk to people, and they're like, did you draw this? You like mail on it? It's all yours? You just get it off AliExpress? It's yours? What? Like you made this? Like you got a tablet and you. And the reason why those people exist now is because of drop shippers, is because of resellers, is because of people who do AR art and stolen art. You know, there was the notorious AI booth that got into Anime Expo one year where people were able to make their own prints for like less than $20 when artists were selling theirs for $20, you know, and it's frustrating because, oh, who could afford it? Yeah, the drop shipper that spent maybe $20 on product and, you know, makes a bunch of profit because their product costs like $1 to 20 cents to make, compared to the artists whose stuff makes like $4 or $5 to make, even more, you know. And oh, don't get me on the Eda bags. I can go on a whole thing about the Eda bags and stolen Eda bag people. Eda bag artists are stronger artists than me because I've thought about it and then I have seen what they've gone through and I'm like, I'm good. Nah, not gonna touch. But because of that, I want more conventions to vet. I want more conventions to do jury, to do I'll take lotto. I will take lotto. And the reason for that is because it gives people time. Because things are getting harder and harder now, I'm one of the lucky ones that I have my eggs in many, many baskets. But I know a lot of artists that don't. I know a lot of, and I've seen it. I've seen artists desperate and struggling to get tables because, oh, they slept in past their alarm. Well, the app closed in 5 seconds, and now they don't have income for an entire month, you know? And it was never that bad before. It was never that bad like it is now. And it sucks because it also sucks for newbies. You would think you hear the words like, oh, this con just popped up and that would be great and a good way to start out. But then you hear, oh, it's a startup con, only a 2-day weekend, artist alley tables $500, badges are $80 to $90, no one gets free parking, you only get one chair, which has happened. I've been to a place where they tried to deny us our second chair even though they gave us a badge. I've seen some cons be like, oh, well, you only get one artist alley badge, you gotta pay for another. For people who don't know, the normal is you get 2 artist alley badges, which is like you, the artist, and a helper, or if you're doing a split, 2 artist badges. Or you have you can buy a third helper badge for usually a reduced price or something like that. But you hear all of that, right? And then you're like, okay, well, I'm not even gonna break even at my first con. I'm letting you know right now, if my very first con that I ever did when I was a little baby, where I had no merch, I had I remember my very first table. I'll try to see if I can slap a picture of it online on here or not, but literally it was I had a couple of prints. I think I only had 2 or 3 charm designs, and then a bunch of little Steven Universe buttons that I was selling for $1 because I was baby. I didn't know what I was doing. And I did really well at that con, and I was able to do commissions and yada 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 and have fun, but I was able to make the profit back for that con because 1, it was a split, and 2, my parents had paid for my plane ticket at the time, and the friend that I was staying with at the time, I offered to split the hotel, but they were cool with not, so I was like, okay, cool. So I was able to do that, but now that's pretty much impossible. It's making it to where if you're a little baby artist just testing the waters, you can't test a first year. You can't test this and that. You're kind of stuck to art markets or art shows, which is something I have written down here because I've been doing more of them because the con scene's been getting so crazy. And another thing with the con scene getting so crazy is I've talked to people who go. And a lot of people who go are like, yeah, I don't like how big these cons are getting. I don't like how packed they're getting. I don't like how this is going. So I'd rather go to a little baby mom and pop con. I'd rather go to a little this and that con. I'd rather go to a 1-day event where I don't have to spend money, and then I'll spend money because I'm oh, it's free just to go. That's cool. And you hear all those things. And you have a good time. And then you sit here and you wonder, and you're like, okay, but what do we do now? Cool, I was able to make my $100 back for a small 1-day event. Maybe make a couple more than that, but that's definitely not enough to do a con, not enough to do a table. So what do you do? And I don't really have a solution unless you're already an established artist. I don't have an answer to that. I'm someone who's been doing it for a long time. A couple of my friends have, but I feel very sad for people who want to pop in, for people who are older, and have a day job, but they've always wanted to at least try to do it now. I don't know a single person that can just test out over $1,000. Do you? I don't. And again, that's just the travel, the con, and food expenses. That's not even including the merch. That's not even including filling out a table, which is something that takes years. It takes years. It takes a long time. Again, unless you saved mountains of money beforehand, or you have a trust fund, or you have people helping you out, and things like that, which are possible. I'm not saying it's not, but it's frustrating because I think back to when I was younger and I hear about the stories of how artists were doing, and the issue too is the travel gamble. You know, it's a lot easier for me to lose out on money where, this sucks, but at least I'm only 40 minutes away or an hour's drive away, you know, and I'm only out a weekend. But if I had to fly, if I had to do stuff like that, I'd be devastated. And it's been happening. It's been happening more and more. And I've had people be like, oh, well then just travel for more cons, travel to cheaper cons. It's like, okay, but then you still have to make more money to warrant it, you know? So where's the answer there? And another little rant I have, because I don't have a good solution with just how things are going right now. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. I just have to hope that the bubble bursts, or people get their stuff together. And yeah, but my next little rant before I end off this video is, oh, how it bothers me when I see big artists. I'm not gonna name names. I'm not. But I know some very big artists in the convention scene who don't have much of a presence online. That's a whole nother odd thing that I think is just so wild about working in the convention circuit, is there are some artists I have met that have the most amazing art, that have been doing this for so many years, and don't even have like 1,000 followers on any of their online platforms. Their online shop doesn't get a lot of sales. It's like all doing convention circuit stuff. Like it's so wild to me that is a thing. But I'll hear these people, right? And I'll hear them be like, oh, I'm not having an issue. Like, yeah, my sales aren't as good as they used to be, but it's not that bad. Or, well, you know, they just need to make more expensive stuff. Like, my cheapest thing is like $15. So I know I'm going to at least walk home with a bunch of money. And I'm sitting here like, wait, your cheapest thing is $15. Oh, but then I look at your table and you have a like 5 to 8 year plus version of a con table. You have like, no wonder everything you have is like $15 at a minimum, because you have so much variety from people to pick from. You have so many things, this and that. And this is nothing on them. It's just a little bit of the tone deafness that makes me irritated with it. It's like, yeah, no duh, you're gonna make money. You're a well-known name. I even have a couple of friends that are well-known names in the con circuit that do cons easily 2 to 3 times a month, where they fly all over the place and they do stuff like that, and they do pretty well. And that's great. I'm super happy for them. You know, but it gets mad when I hear those people be like, nah, I haven't had any problems. I don't know what I'm talking about. But then you got a person who it's their first time doing a con, or it's their dream con. It's their home con, right? And they sit there and they're full of imposter syndrome. They're full of the stuff. They look at the booth of merch that's like 15 to 20 grand worth of stuff, and they're like, well, I can't afford that. I'm not going to make enough profit to do that. And then you know what happens? You get people who quit. And I can't blame them. Why? Well, because it sucks right now. Like, it's not like it was before. And yeah. I know I feel bad leaving it off on that note, but I don't. I'm trying to think of the positives here. And the positives I do have is mom and pop cons are great. A lot of the ones that stay within the rules that are great startups, they're amazing. A lot of the, the day shows and the markets, those are fun too. They're a great thing. I love doing the Etsy Guild at Torrance or whatever. I love doing the spooky night markets. I love doing the pop-up umais and stuff like that. And there's a couple others that I'm doing recently. I'm gonna be doing one in September, and those are gonna be fun. Those are gonna be great. But it seems like those are going to be the more likely route for people starting out than going to a con. And it seems to be getting to a point where I'm not saying an artist should have an empty table, okay? But if an artist is working their butt off and their table's full, but it's not, it's not the 10 grand table, it's not the 8 grand table, it's not the big Bujo table, are they not as valid? Because I think they are. They work just as hard, if not harder, than some of those people. They're just starting out. They don't know the ropes. They don't know what's going on. And, yeah. That's all I have to say about that. I'm worried about where it's going. And I really enjoy doing this. And I don't want to give it up. But I've been talking to some other people, and it might be a thing that we might have to. Because at the end of the day, we gotta survive. So, I hope my next video is not as depressing as this one is, but yeah, I generally don't know how to end it, so I'm just gonna end it here. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. Never give up on your art or your dream, whatever you're doing right now. Remember to do the stupid YouTube thing of the like, comment, and subscribe, and the comment for the bot. And if you listen to it all the way through, what is your favorite thing about conventions? I want to know down below. Comment what your favorite thing is. And yeah, I will. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.